Hey, this is Coach Rob with Coach.Win. Today I have my partner, John Lund. Hey, good morning, John.
Good morning, Rob.
Today I want to talk about, I think the one topic that we hear all the time, the probably most common issue we hear in organizations is, wait for it, communications.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you work with a client for the first time, what are some of the common issues you see when it comes to communication in the organizations?
Whether it's a 15-person client or a 150 or 200 employee client, that communications is always challenging between handoffs, handoff between departments. I don't know what's going on. So the feeling of lost, even at the leadership team, right? That lost. And then also, there's also a little bit on the one people don't always think of, like there's stuff people need to understand that they don't need to know. It's not actually
Yeah.
important. What to communicate and what is okay not to communicate. That's also something that uniquely comes up.
Yeah, I find a lot of times it's exactly what you said. It's alignment across the organization. People, it's the classic, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And so many times you're just wasting time and resources on the wrong thing.
Totally agree.
So one of the tools that I learned very early on in my entrepreneurial journey was this concept of the daily huddle. And I know you've used this in your organizations in the past, right?
Absolutely. A long time.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because when I first suggest it to clients, they're like, "Oh my God, we're going to have a meeting every day. We already have enough meetings on our schedule." I mean, you know exactly where I'm going with this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But the idea is if we have a short 15-minute or less check-in, with a small organization, it can be everyone. In a larger organization, you break it up into smaller teams, the people that need to work together and it can have a really profound impact. I mean, what are some of the before I get into the structures of how you run this, I mean, let everybody know what are some of the positives that come out of this in your experience.
I mean, I ran a daily huddle once I got introduced to it for at least 12 years in my business. Probably started it when we were about 18 people and we were 65 when I sold. So we ran it the whole time, and just the amazing amount of camaraderie it created, connections it created, people fighting for their team. What I mean by people fight for teammates more than the company, right?
Yeah.
And just getting to know, it just created some laughter and joy and communication and alignment, perfectly said by you, every day of what was going on. And we did it for 12 years.
Yeah, I've found the same thing. And it's interesting when I introduce it to clients now, like they're all so apprehensive. They're like, "Oh my God, I don't want to do this." And then usually about even a couple of months later, they're like, "Oh my God, this is incredible. Like, how are we operating without this?" And I have this strong believing that, human beings being human, like we all crave connection. And to me, that's what the Daily Huddle does. Instead of just walking into the office and going straight to your cubicle, or especially if you're in a remote organization, just waking up and walking down the hallway to your office, there's no connection. You don't even see any people in a remote space. And I think one of the most important things about the huddle is it forces people to have that connection and helps build culture. Have you seen that?
Yeah, very much so. We used to have more water cooler talks. We used to show up to a meeting and not have our phones or our laptops with us so that people would ask, like, "Hey Rob, how's the golf game this weekend? What's going on? How's your family? What's happening?" Right? That kind of ended. The Daily Huddle brings that back into play with stuff, which is really, really important. People having connections creates alignment, creates trust, which we all know is a critical part of business.
Yeah. And I mean, the structure that I've always recommended to people is really three parts. And I always tell them it's like a news channel, right? Everybody in the organization has to participate. It works better if everyone comes prepared, and they come prepared with three things, right? You got the headlines, like what happened yesterday or what's going to happen today that might be relevant to the whole company. Like it could be something you learned, something you heard about a client, something you heard about a vendor. It could just be a shout out to one of your coworkers. What are the other things that you've seen for headlines that maybe I'm missing?
Yeah, I mean, in our situation, if there's anything really critical happening in a department, we wanted to make sure they covered it too. Like, hey, we're going to be swamped. It's audit time in our accounting department, or we got to do physical inventory in the warehouse department. Like we had to know because that way the sales and marketing department, if they knew that for the next 2 days the warehouse is going to be extra busy, they could manage clients better, right? And
Yeah.
clients' expectations. So we wanted to make sure if there's any department headline that was critical for people to know, uh, and make sure we got that out every day.
Yeah, that's a great example. And that's where I really emphasize it needs to be relevant and it needs to just be a headline. Like I don't need all the details. I just need the high level headline. And then the second thing I tell people is like when I wake up in the morning and I turn on the TV and I'm listening to the news, I'm also listening for the weather. Like what are the key metrics that you need to know from your particular department or even yourself? And the best example I ever heard is this is one of my favorite examples. I was checking out of the JW Marriott here in San Antonio, actually, and it was taking forever to get my car from the valet. And I said, "Man, you guys must be busy today." And he goes, "Sir, we have 581 people checking out, and we have 471 people checking in today." And I thought, "Oh my God, that guy got that metric in a huddle this morning."
Yeah, for
And they
sure.
were able to prepare for the day based on that metric.
That is a great story. I love that they had that metric. It reminds me, so ours was a little different in the sense of, as you said, you have to break it up once you get a little bigger. So we still did an all staff. We just made it very quick. So we did the 9 minute huddle in departments, the news, weather, traffic in those departments. Then everyone ran into our big room, right? So about a minute move. So it started at 10:07 every day. Uh, then they all came in the room. We did a 7 minute, all 65 people
Oh, wow.
huddle on what was the big news from your little huddle, right?
Right.
What's your key metric? What's about to happen the next today, next day, next day, and any other call shout outs very quick around the room to the different departments. And then a shout out if anyone wanted to give somebody a high five, which was our way of, hey, Rob, you did a fantastic job with that tough customer yesterday, or you really stayed late to get that done. We appreciate it. And we give a high five. We'd all be out. And then just the leaders would stay for another 5 minutes and just say, is there anything we need to connect on
Mm,
for today or tomorrow that's going to be relevant based on what you heard, whatever. So 9 minutes, 7 minute, 5 minute, the
wow.
whole
And I love
company
what
from
you
bottom
said.
up.
You said something very interesting there too. You said you guys did it at 10:07. Why did you pick 10:07?
We really originally started in the morning. We believe in starting at odd times. It gets people much more focused on starting at odd times. We started in the morning, but there's always fire drills right in the morning, right? Like
Yeah.
some email, something didn't go wrong with shipping. So people like to feel set. 10:07 before lunch breaks, but the '07 is just because I find starting meetings at weird times gets people much more focused. We had big clocks around the room, I mean around the whole office that would like, all right, here it comes, digital clock so they could see exactly. And at 10:06 they'd kind of shut down, and 10:07 they'd be in their spot.
Oh, that's a great solution. I saw one of the clients I worked with, they were a manufacturing company. They had about 50 employees, and they had the biggest DJ speakers in their break room that I've ever seen. And I was like, "What do you guys use those for?" And they were like, "There's a song of the day." And it was like a privilege to play the song of the day. And they would start it and they played it super loud on these big speakers. And as soon as the song ended, they started the daily huddle. And it's so easy to recognize when a song ends, and you could hear it from any place in the shop. And I thought that was always a good way.
Yeah, that's a great
And
way.
I've got a client, an accounting firm. They do their huddle at 10:40, which is a little bit of inside
Yeah,
accountant
yeah,
humor.
yeah, I like it. I like 10:40.
And then, of course, the third part of the huddle. So we said headlines, we said weather, and of course, you mentioned it just a second ago. It's traffic. Like, what are the obstacles that need to be dealt with today? And I always tell people, like, this is the ultimate. Hey guys, I've been trying to get this contract approved from John. I've emailed him, I've called him, I've walked in his office, and he still won't do it. And I can't accomplish my goals unless John will unblock me on this contract. And if I say that in the huddle, then John better come see me immediately after the huddle. That's how I'll always use traffic. What about you? How have you used that in the past?
We did it that way. So internal traffic that'd be, and then we also do like external traffic. Like, hey, we know this client's going to open up 5 stores. They're holding back the orders, which means they're going to come in late, but they're going to still want them shipped on time. So we could actually predict traffic and give you like a route adjustment, like Apple Maps does. Like, hey guys, We need to start pushing other clients' orders to, we got to ask permission. Obviously, we're going to do what's right for the client, but hey, Robbie, do you really need us to ship it out tomorrow, or could we ship it out on Friday? Because we're going to be swamped tomorrow. So we tried to avoid the traffic jams as well, if we could see them coming. So that was another way we use traffic.
I love it. I love it. And so this is great. What are some of the tips that you've given to clients when they start a daily huddle? Like what's some of the best advice that you've seen or some of the best ways to do it?
Well, first of all, the basics, if they're in person or they can do it virtually on the screen, right? But the key is I love starting with some kind of wins, go around the room and get some really quick wins if they're a small team. Again, getting that really good connection. I do like that still in a daily huddle. They're a small team. The other ones I wanted to is just we got to get people to understand just it is just the headline. The connections can happen afterwards. We got to stick with headlines. If this thing gets long, it goes bad, though. And then really just do it. Just do it for a period of time, at least 30 days, 45 days. You'll start to feel the effect of it. You'll start to feel connected. And what we said, number one thing, communication alignment. The communication and alignment will just start to happen, but you got to commit to getting it started. What have you found is the best ways to get it going?
Yeah, that for me, has to, for it to really work effectively, people have to come prepared. And so I really like having a simple little form or something where they fill it out prior to the meeting. And I always suggest when you start a daily huddle, put out an all team calendar event at 4:45 p.m. at the end of the day. And it's a 5-minute calendar event that says prepare for your daily huddle tomorrow.
That's great
And
too.
so at the end of the day, it's all relevant. It's all fresh. Like, oh yeah, I need to tell people about that new CRM tool that we're going to start using tomorrow. Or hey, we got that client coming in tomorrow afternoon. I need to tell people. And so it's relevant and it's fresh. And it also makes it easy. You go home and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I'm prepared for tomorrow. And so to me, that's probably my number one tip is like, you've got to get people to think and prepare so when the huddle starts, and it always starts on time, everybody's got their notes and they know what they need to report on.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
So one more important thing about the huddle, because you and I deal with a lot of teams that are also remote, either 100% remote, hybrid remote. And of course, you and I are both tech guys. Tell me a little bit about this one little app in Microsoft Teams. It's free that you and I have been using for a long time now. Tell people about how you can do this electronically.
Yeah, so the Updates app, which is personally the worst named app in the sense of you can't search for it because Microsoft Updates makes you get all the actual software updates. But if you hit the three buttons in your Teams, look for the app called Updates. It has a daily and a weekly huddle and update built right into it. You can obviously set it up just like Rob and I suggest, the news, weather, traffic. Every morning I get a little activity alert, the little bell on the top, little activity alert. I have an update due. I put in my news, I put in my weather, I put in my traffic. We also do a core value shout out and do you need help with your traffic, right? We're a small firm, but Rob's in San Antonio, you're in San Antonio, we have a person in the Philippines, we have another one in Omaha, me in Omaha, Arizona. Every day I know what Rob's doing. Every day I know what Tim's doing. Every day I knew what other staff members are doing. And I can help them, which feels so good. And then we can celebrate success together too, both personal and whatever. The Updates app is the simplest turn on tool. I also just recommend it for look for other ways to be updating people, but it's a full no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a I've been amazed at how much it's brought value so simply. And again, it's free. It's nothing you have to pay for. And you can customize it. You can make it whatever you need it to be. And it's just super simple. So if I hear a lot of teams are like, I mean, for you and I, we're perfect examples. Like we're on the road a lot. We're working with clients all day long. Like it'd be pretty hard for us to stop every day at 10:40 and have a meeting. But I go in every day. I usually do it at the end of the day. Sometimes I'll do it first thing in the morning after Wordle, but I put in my update and I know that at some point during the day, Tim's going to see it, John's going to see it, and it saves so much time. And it cuts down our internal communication a lot because it's all in updates.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways people can get. People like another meeting or another thing to do. Us having an updates app saves a ton of time. And even if it creates some other thing to do, I know exactly, and I've already done a little bit of pre-work. If Tim needs help with something, I can literally just go, oh, I know what that is. Then I ping Tin and say, okay, here's what you need to do, versus her trying to get a hold of me sometime that day or the next day or the next day. Sometimes I just record a little video clip and go, here's how you do it, Tin. And I send it to her. Versus if she had to wait for to get a hold of me, that'd be different. It's so much more efficient. So
Yeah.
highly recommend the updates.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's really cool about it is you can attach pictures, which is always cool because you and I are pretty good about every now and then. It's like, hey, here's a picture of my dog running in the yard, and it's just it kind of puts a smile on your face at the beginning of the
Yeah,
morning. So,
it is good.
well, listen, this is awesome. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
John at Coach.Win works. Check me out on LinkedIn. You'll find me. My other company name is EntreSmart, but check it out on LinkedIn or John at Coach.Win.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. And if you want to get a hold of me, Rob at simons.coach, you can also get me on LinkedIn. We're pretty active at Coach.Win. So please follow us. And if you have any questions about the Daily Huddle or you have stories about how it's worked for you, we'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments. Thanks, guys.